There is no red, white, or blue in this country. The only color that matters is green because we live in the United Corporations of America. Two salutes on this Liberation Day, as the orange man in the White House says. Welcome, welcome. Status Coup in the house. It is, what's today? Wednesday, April the 2nd, 2025, live in the United Corporations of America. As President Trump, the fearless one, I think just wrapped his... I don't know. I texted Colin and was like, it sounds like he's on pills or something. This is even more unhinged than normal. But he just did about an hour speech, improving as he previewed, in my view, we'll see what Steve thinks, the coming economic apocalypse because of his across-the-board tariffs, what he called respectful reciprocal tariffs or discounted reciprocal tariffs. Quite a lot to get to. So we'll go through that with Steve. Perfect to have you on today, as you could dumb it down for the masses, what this all means. But I do think as a progressive, I'm okay with, specific targeted tariffs. Bernie, I think traditionally has been okay with some tariffs. This doesn't make much sense to me, what Trump just previewed that he's doing, which is a minimum across the board, every country, minimum 10% tariffs on all imports from any country. And when you go through the list, it is significantly higher for a lot of other countries. Conspicuously absent for now was Canada and Mexico. They were not included on his little list. But Israel was included. We'll see how long that lasts. We'll see if AIPAC allows it. And the rest of the lobbyists and donors that have purchased our government. First, let's smash the like button, share this live stream. I am also excited to say, drum roll, in about 45 minutes, we will be joined by our new reporter, our first ever, other than yours truly, full-time reporter hire. So I'm super, super excited to introduce you to her. It is a woman. And she, I think, is going to be great. So we will introduce you to her later, get some of her story and the story she'll be covering for us. So let's get to this announcement. All right, Steve, for the layman who might not understand this, before we get to Trump and his buffoonery, what is a tariff? What is the traditional purpose? Because this is dating back to like the 1800s. And why does Trump say we're getting ripped off and we need to spruce up tariffs?
Tariffs are a tax, and tariffs are not a tax paid by the other country. They're a tax paid by you and me, right? Because the United States taxes in its own currency. It doesn't tax in a foreign currency. It taxes in US dollars. So ultimately, it'll be the firms that buy the goods wholesale that pay the initial tariff. And then the question will be, will they pass that cost on to Jane and Joe Public? Now, I can't imagine I have an MBA. So if you think about it, what is the primary business driver of all corporations is to maximize shareholder value. So if they've got a 25% uptick in wholesale prices that they have to pay due to the tariffs, their responsibility is to jack up prices or cut labor or to do something to bring costs in line so that they maintain the profit margin. This is capitalism, baby, right? So it's going to end up hurting the average person, most likely, but it is a tax. And the US doesn't get fat and rich on taxes in its own currency. So imagine Donald Trump telling everybody that they are going to raise tariffs paid not by the external, but by the wholesaler in the US, and then pass that on to us for higher prices. While
I just want to drill into this because
sure,
just because MAGA, I know you believe your leader, it's not the foreign country paying the tariff. The foreign country doesn't come to the office and pay the tariff. It is the U.S. company that pays it. And then, as you're saying, they're not going to just eat that cost. They turn it around and increase prices on the consumer.
That's correct. And in the case of, when you understand what taxes are, it's so, like, I can't stress this enough and keep it simple, right? The United States government, there's only two ways you can get US dollars. Either A, the federal government spends that money into the economy, doesn't print it, spends it into the economy, or you take out a loan from a bank that you've got to pay interest for, and then they delete the rest of the payments except for the interest payments. It's the only two ways you get money into the economy. The idea of us being a net exporter, where we're exporting more goods and services to the rest of the world and making money that way, we haven't been a net importer or a net exporter in 50 years. I mean, we haven't been a net exporter in forever. Okay. So this whole tax thing, and let's just be fair, in order to have replacements in the United States, in order to spruce up production, let's just to say we're going to suddenly become this isolated North Korea version of the US, and we do everything in house. It takes 3 to 5 years to build out the productive capacity. So you're looking at years and years and years of higher prices. Okay. Not just higher prices, but because they have slashed and burned the federal government's spending, you're also talking about cutting off the spigot that allows people to thrive and survive. So we're talking about major recessionary pressures. We're talking about major opportunity, not just an opportunity, the most likely mass layoffs. And you're talking about a severe hit to the US economy. You're not talking about anything good here.
So let's show some of the Donalds. Again, if you watch this whole thing, listen, I called it in 2020. Something's off with Trump. Something's off with Biden. I said he shouldn't be able to run then. I wasn't a doctor. I didn't diagnose him, but I said there's something going on here. He's not in his prime time. A little sundowning. Well, if you watch Trump's speech, sounded like he was on some type of medicine to me. But putting that aside, Colin, let's play some of these clips before we show you the list of the percentages he's putting on the various countries.
A big price from 1789 to 1913. We were a tariff-backed nation, and the United States was proportionately the wealthiest it has ever been. So wealthy, in fact, that in the 1880s, they established a commission to decide what they were going to do with the vast sums of money they were collecting. We were collecting so much money so fast, we didn't know what to do with it. Isn't that a nice problem to have? What do you think, Marco? Good problem? Marco would love that problem. But we don't have that problem anymore, but we're not going to have it very much longer, I will tell you. But they collected so much money, they actually formed a commission to determine what they were going to do with the money, who they were going to give it to, and how much. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they established the income tax so that citizens, rather than foreign countries, would start paying the money necessary to run our government.
So not that Steve or I were around in the 1700s to 1913, but a quick history lesson, the bare minimum. Yeah, we were a wealthy country for the robber barons, for, the railroad tycoons, the oil magnates. There was a whole lot of poverty in America, and there was really no middle class in the 1700s, 1800s. You had the Industrial Revolution where things got a little better, but I don't know what he's talking about, that we were once a wealthy country. Yes, very consolidated at the top. Am I missing that?
So let me clue you in on the code speak that the libertarians that are supporting Trump are saying, right? What happened in 1913? The Federal Reserve Act. Okay. So this is their backdoor action to try and act like, oh no, the takeover of the country via central banking. Well, just so everybody's aware, England has a central bank, Japan has a central bank, Russia has a central bank, China has a central bank, Australia has a central bank. You get the picture, right? The point is that there's all these really fun books about blood libel and the Rothschild conspiracy that these people sit there and fap to at night, deep in the dark recesses of their mom's basement, and they talk about Rothschilds. This problem right here is the real issue. Okay. What has happened? They did a income tax, and that allowed for them to collect taxes from everybody in a way that now that you have the money that's in your hand, the money that you get from your check, you can budget your life around. I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I think you should get rid of taxes altogether on everyone making less than, say, 500,000. And I know 500,000 sounds crazy, but seriously, we only need enough taxes out there for at least on income to keep the currency going, because taxes drive the need for currency. They don't actually fund spending. So this whole thing Trump's talking about is insane. Okay. If you want to get rid of taxes for the working class, get rid of taxes for the working class. But this idea that you're going to raise tariffs and prices on everything, every person that has to buy goods and services, no matter who they are, will pay that extra price. It will not be the foreign countries, because the foreign countries, they don't need US dollars. When foreign countries sell goods and services into the United States, what do they get? They get US dollars. Now, some of those foreign countries need US dollars to facilitate transactions for things they need to buy in the US, because you need US dollars to buy US goods. Okay. But they don't need that money. They don't do anything. They get a statement, a bank statement. That's it. So I don't know if this is making sense. I don't want to talk like in esoteric terms. I'm not trying to be all crafty here. The bottom line is that taxes literally do not finance or fund the federal government. So the idea that they're collecting US dollars from corporations and they're rolling in this money, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Literally, the banking system, there's a loop, there's a circuit inside the banking system that doesn't go out to the rest of the world. It's called a reserve. And those reserves go between banks to clear payments. When you write a check, Jordan Chariton, to your new reporter, you write that check, you're not paying her. You're sending a note to your bank, and your bank is saying, so I'm going to send this money that you've said on this check to her to put it in her account. That's all that happens here with the interbanking dollars, that reserve. The actual money on the outside, our money and stuff, my God, it's deleted once it's turned in as a tax. It doesn't do anything.
And I think it's important. We're going to get to the actual meat of who is getting the tariffs put on, including the auto industry, 25% across the board on all foreign automakers. But I think that's important because Trump is kind of sort of teasing that he just wants to get rid of the federal income tax. I don't think it's going to happen, but putting that aside, the fact that he's even teasing that kind of lends credibility to Steve and others' modern monetary theory. Because how could you get rid of the federal income tax if income taxes fund government services? That is the belief, and that is the narrative, that income taxes fund the government. Well, if you're going to get rid of the income tax, which he's proposing, income taxes fund, if you're going to get rid of that, how would we fund services? That's the point. They don't fund. The income taxes, among other taxes, don't fund on the federal level. They don't fund services.
Well, he's saying that these tariffs, these taxes, that's what they are going to fund the government now, because that's what they did back in the old days, right? Yeah. So it's hilarious. It really is. I mean, if you want to protect an industry, let's say you've got a junior industry starting up in the United States, like AI, right? I mean, China is showing you what they can do for free with state money. It's not tax dollars in China paying for their AI investment. They went ahead and just did it because that's all the US has to do too. But because we're so full of shit about this idea that taxes fund spending, we can't get past that. So Donald Trump is playing on every idiot's dream that we're going to get rid of tax. We're going to do this because taxes fund the government. We're going to make them over there pay for the taxes. And there's just enough people out there that don't understand, that will sit there and get all excited about this. And it's devastating, actually. It's devastating because think about it. If you're poor and you've got $100 in your pocket and that's all you, or less, right? Now, all of a sudden you've got to pay additional money for everything that you get, food source, you name it. And honest to God, there is just not enough production in the United States to offset the kinds of things that you would have to buy from imports. So that means people are going to have to pay that price, period.
We got 600 people watching. Smash that like button. Share this live stream. Super chats appreciated. And reminder, in a little bit, we're going to be introducing to you our new full-time investigative reporter. Excited about that. All right, let's show you more of what Trump said and then get into the specifics of his tariffs.
But you see the numbers. The numbers are so disproportionate. They're so unfair. At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart? And that'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating. So we're going to have a minimum of cheating, and we're going to be very severe on the people that at the gate that watch the tariffs and watch the product coming in, because there's been a lot of bad things happening at the gate.
All right, let's show a chart of each country and their tariffs. Again, unless I'm missing something, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything on Canada or Mexico in this. So he's putting a 25% tariff on foreign automakers. We're going to get to the automakers part because that's basic. There is no such thing as foreign. There's no 100% American-made car. Even cars that are manufactured in America, they get parts from Mexico and Canada. So even car companies that have plants in America, a lot of parts of the cars are not manufactured in America. So essentially, if he's doing it to the letter of the law, he's putting a tariff on all car companies, period. China, 34%. European Union, 20%. Vietnam, 46%. Taiwan, 32%. Japan, 24%. And what this means is all the goods coming from those services. So obviously electronics when we're talking about China, also a lot of farm products from a lot of these companies, food. Japan, 24%. India, 26%. South Korea, 25%. Brazil, 10%. Thailand, 36%. Switzerland, 31%. Indonesia, 32%. Malaysia, 24%. Cambodia, almost 50%. United Kingdom, reciprocal, he called it, because they charge us 10%. We're charging them 10%. South Africa, 30%. And I will believe it when I see it. Israel, 17%. Again, unless I'm missing something. Oh, there's a couple more here. I won't read them all, but you can see. Bangladesh, Singapore, Philippines, Chile, and a couple others. Mexico and Canada are not on there. It's funny, Steve, that he's been complaining so much about Mexico, China, considering he's the one in his first term that redid NAFTA with the USMCA. So he's shitting on us getting exploited by Mexico and Canada, but he's the one that renegotiated the trade deal. So essentially he's shitting on himself because he did NAFTA 2.0, which was essentially the same as NAFTA 1.0. They just changed a few words, moved a few periods. That there was really not a big difference between NAFTA 1 and NAFTA 2.0. But let's focus on specifics. The auto industry. The UAW president, Sean Fain, who I've interviewed before, we were obviously on the ground covering the historic UAW strikes in 2023. They got, at that time, a great contract compared to the shit and the rump roast they got for the last 2 decades. But 25% across the board foreign automakers, Trump's argument has been great. I hope those foreign automakers in America raise their prices because then Americans will just go and buy American-made cars. That sounds good in principle, but as far as I know, there's not many fully American-made cars. And I don't think if a Ford truck goes from 70, 80 grand today, I'm just making it up. Maybe it's less than that. But let's say a Ford truck goes from 60, 70 today to 100,000 because of these tariffs. I mean, that's going to hurt the workers at those plants. There's going to be layoffs of the workers at those, foreign automakers because they're going to sell less cars. And I don't know what American-only auto companies customers are then going to rush to because, again, no car company is purely all parts made in America.
Well, just think about this for just a minute, right? The idea of quote unquote bringing back the jobs. This is the kind of stuff that sits with people well. They're like, oh, bring back the jobs, right? But a lot of the jobs that were sent away, if you will, were jobs people didn't want to do to begin with. Okay. And if you think about giving pieces of paper to China, to whoever's doing the development work, and then we are consuming that I mean, we're giving them pieces of paper for real goods and services, right? Now, as an empire, that has been our privilege. We're literally kicking that empire, which, I mean, I can see all kinds of good reasons to stop predating on the global south and abusing other countries and stuff like that. But this is a complete like bastardization of that concept of being anti-imperial. This is not anti-empire. This is just stupid. Okay. There are certain things that other countries just simply do better than us. There are things that makes no sense for us to try and do. And the fact is that our government has long known that the answer to this is to create good jobs, but they cut the government jobs. They're slashing the government jobs. Good, productive, white-collar jobs, good, productive, even working-class jobs that could be in the local community as opposed to driving 3 hours to get to a job or driving an hour in traffic to get to a job. We're going to sit there and make it so that we're taking our real resources, the things in the ground, our ground. We're digging up our ground to send it off to other countries now. Like, instead of letting them do it for us, like all the waste now. Think about it. He started rolling back the regulations. They're starting to repeal all the stuff for the environment, all these things. Why is that? Because if you try to bring the production back home, you're not going to be able to be competitive if, oh my God, you've got to adhere to regulations, right? So this has all been part and parcel with bringing back the pollution, bringing back the waste, bringing back all that crap, and then simultaneously slashing anything that would keep us clean drinking water. They said, you can't say clean drinking water now. You can't say any of these things. They wiped out all these terms. This is the biggest fuck job you've ever seen. But at the same time, though, because people aren't really thinking about all this stuff, they're only thinking he's bringing back the jobs. Well, he's not going to bring back the job. It's going to be impossible to bring back all that work. Okay. But even if he did do that, the cost of doing that, and I'm not talking about cost in money. I'm talking about cost as in lives. I'm talking about cost as in the environment. I'm talking about cost as in destroying the country. It's just stupid. And, unfortunately,
Well,
I don't think that far.
a couple things. Number one, for you MAGA stands in the chat, take off your blinders, because if this was Biden doing it, you'd have the complete opposite view. So cut the shit. You're cheering because it's your cult leader. But the reality is, there's a lot easier way to do this than tariffs. Just tax the fuck out of corporations that offshore jobs so that you're not taxing the consumer, you're taxing directly the companies. Sure, you could say, well, Jordan, they could still then turn around and increase their prices. Sure, they can. But you want to know what? If they are operating and doing business in America, then there needs to be penalties for offshoring jobs. This penalty just allows the company to reverse it onto the consumer. There was, under NAFTA, under all these trade deals, there was no actual threat or risk to companies that offshore jobs, because that was the whole intent of these trade deals, so that companies could offshore jobs. So there is better ways of penalizing corporations for offshoring jobs than tariffs, which the foreign companies are not paying. And you're affecting so many different industries. It's not just auto. Farmers are freaking out now across the heartland because they already got issues as farmers, but now you're affecting their main partners, Mexico, for a lot of the farmers there. The other thing is, this does nothing about the core issues and the real economy. Colin, show the chart. We've had a grand bank robbery in this country for 40 years. That's why I call it the United Corporations of America. There's the red line. This is the bank robbery. All our money going to the Trumps and the Howard Lutnicks and the, all of Trump's billionaires in his cabinet. He's not doing anything about the starvation federal minimum wage of $7.25. Not doing a goddamn thing. He's not doing anything about one of the biggest drivers of bankruptcy, medical bankruptcy, because he's against universal health care. He's not doing anything about the fact that we have employment tied to our health care, tied to employment, which is one of the biggest problems in our economy. He's not doing anything to cap CEO salary and close the gap. It used to be 50-1 CEOs to workers. Now it's 400 to 1. So to me, Steve, this is all kind of like Trump bluster to say, I'm bringing the jobs back. I'm for the American working man and woman. But in reality, they've been open. Yeah, there's going to be short-term pain, but I don't think it's going to be short-term pain.
No.
And lastly, the companies will wait this out. The companies will say, he's gone in 4 years, we think, because he's talking about, running again and fuck the Constitution. But they'll just wait this out because they know it'll all be reversed. Or Trump is known to moonwalk and reverse things if it becomes unpopular. He'll just walk it back. So I don't really think any companies the stock market's crashing, but I think the companies will just wait this out. I don't think this is not going to be like Ford and GM and Apple are going to be like, all right, we got to close down the factories in China, close down the factories in Mexico. We're opening up right in Detroit again. I don't think so.
Just remember this: every time Congress writes a bill, and again, I don't believe we have a democracy. So what I'm saying here is just the way it is if you had a democracy. Okay, but Congress to this day, if it writes a bill, all right, it can put in that bill must hire U.S. citizens, must hire blah blah blah, must do this, and then it could say we want to make EV cars affordable because we want to get away from these petroleum cars. So we're going to buy all these Musk cars. U.S. government could subsidize every single one of those cars if it wanted to, right? So this whole thing
like China's doing.
Oh, God, you're picking it up, right? You're seeing one country is doing for its citizens, the other one is fucking its citizens, and its citizens are so dumbed down because its country has screwed education up that they think it's a good thing. Okay, reality is if the federal government says we want to build all new state-of-the-art bridges across America, we want to create high-speed rail in every freaking city, we want to connect the East Coast to the West Coast with renewable high-speed rail, okay, they could literally do that instantaneously, and there would be millions of jobs. But they aren't doing that. Why? Because the people that are going, yeah, tariffs, don't understand the way federal taxes are working. They don't understand the way federal spending works. So they're like, yeah, but in reality, they're screwing us once again, big time. The jobs they want to build the high-speed rail, the government can fund it, and they can write into the bill any contracting requirements necessary. Must hire X, must do Y, must pay this wage, must anything they want. They can write it into the law. Every bill does this, by the way. Okay, there's like an Act 91 or something like, I can't remember the exact act, but it's a federal law that provides money to the departments of transportation across the country that allows them to rehab and fix the bridges, fix the federal roads, the roads that are national roads, right? And literally they can sit there and take that money and they can only do the thing that they're told to do, and they will not get reimbursed if they don't use that kind of encumbrance to make that bill do what they said for it to do. Okay, it happens all the time. Why they won't do that is beyond me. And provide a goddamn federal job guarantee to make sure that immigrants are not treated like they're stealing your job or whatever. Provide a federal job guarantee so people can work in their communities. All this stuff is so much bullshit. Every last bit of it is bullshit. And like, honestly, the idea of taxing corporations, just so we're on the same page, corporations, once you issue a tax to a corporation, corporations are pass-throughs. They're always pass-throughs. You want to hit corporations, tax the shit out of the C-suite. Tax the C-suite, tax the individual CEOs, but they won't do that. So this isn't a matter of we can't do it.
Like Emperor Musk?
Yes, fucking A, right. So just think about this. Elon Musk gets over $9 billion in federal subsidies. Over $9 billion in subsidies. Hey,
wake up, Steve. 38 billion he's got. Thank you.
Well, okay, let's go even higher. I'm sure it's even more than that, but let's just say it's 50 billion, right? The point is that every single dollar he's gotten is from a law passed the way that I was just talking about, written into a law. The dollars are keystroked in and sent to Musk. He found the magic money computers that pay him $50 million or $1 billion or whatever. This is the problem. And these sycophants, these Trumpian sycophants that are just, and I feel for them because they've been dumbed down. They've been turned into freaking like potatoes, right? Their brains are mush and they just go arp, 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 right? At the end of the day, if we could help them learn how the fiat system that we have, regardless of whether you want it to be gold or shitcoin or whatever, if you understood the way our system worked, you could do everything that you're talking about and then some. And you want to talk about making America great again? Instead of having people going bankrupt for cancer, going bankrupt for, getting fired from some job where some asshole was like, yeah, we got to got to earn another quarter point for the quarterly profit margin. So we're going to lay off 10,000 people. Instead of doing that, we could ensure every single American had a good job. Every single person could. We can make sure everybody that wants to go to college could go to college without bankrupting them. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. So
and
anyway,
just to be equal opportunity here, because we call out MAGA, but we also call out the limousine liberals and MSNBC stands. Welcome if you're new here, because we have gotten some of you people fleeing, the Democratic Party here. Listen, MAGA has been hoodwinked, but a lot of Democrats have been hoodwinked that the answer truly to this bank robbery, Colin, put the chart back up, the income inequality chart. The answer truly is we got to increase taxes on the wealthy. Yeah, that's great. Let's increase taxes on the wealthy, but that doesn't change the underlying rot of the U.S. economy, because we've had a 40-year bank robbery in this country. It started under Carter in the 70s, accelerated on steroids under Reagan, and then Clinton put it into jet fuel. With the deregulation, with the destruction of the labor unions, the battering ram they took to labor, mixed in with the explosion of globalization, along with those trade deals and minimum wage not keeping up with inflation. So there's a lot of cascading things. And just as MSNBC and Obama and all the Dems constantly want you to think, the answer to equality is just a wealth tax, just taxing the wealthy. Yes, we should tax the wealthy higher because it's the right thing to do. But that doesn't change the underlying rot. That doesn't change the underlying rot, which is, as productivity has skyrocketed, wages have stayed down here. You could tax the wealthy, all of them at 100%. That doesn't change that underlying rot. And I'm for taxing the wealthy. This is not a defense of, hey, don't tax the wealthy, it won't do anything. Tax the fuck out of them. My point is, we have to do something about the buying off of our politicians, multinational corporations and billion-dollar conglomerates writing our laws, writing our trade deals, the lobbyists writing our laws. We need to strengthen labor unions. We need stronger social safety nets. We need universal health care, and we need free education. China and other countries, they make education free because they understand, or very inexpensive, they understand the more educated the populace, the better the economy does in the long run. Okay. Steve, hell is frozen over because I want to agree with Thomas Friedman for the New York Times on something. Colin, can we show that tweet I sent you? So somebody posted this. Friedman, not mincing words here, he wrote about these tariffs. It's downright scary to watch this close up. Trump is focused on what teams Americans transgender athletes can race on, and China is focused on transforming its factories with AI so it can outrace all our factories. Trump's Liberation Day strategy is to double down on tariffs while gutting our national scientific institutions and workforce that spur U.S. innovation. China's liberation strategy is to open more research campuses and double down on AI-driven innovation to be permanently eliminated from Trump's tariffs. Well, I don't necessarily agree that we should just double down and triple down like China and AI, because in America, the AI is going to replace a lot of the jobs. But what I do agree on is China is fucking cleaning our clocks on a whole, from high-speed rail to electric to AI, because our government, it's been one fucking austerity fest, as Steve's Twitter handle says. Austerity is murder. It's been, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? We are at least 15 years behind China and some other countries on most things. And tariffs are not across the board tariffs. We're going to see layoffs because of these across the board tariffs. We're going to see higher prices. Remember, and forget MAGA. There was the non-MAGA. So there was just the normie people who don't pay attention to politics who voted for Trump because he promised to bring down prices. They weren't diehard MAGA. These were the people who went from Obama to Trump, back to Biden, now back to Trump. Again, I'm for some form of U.S. protectionism, but this isn't a smart, targeted form of U.S. protectionism. Before you go, Steve, I want to play another clip from Trump.
That's why, effective at midnight, we will impose a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles. Thank you.
Okay, so we talked about that. Let's play another.
European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei of one of the great companies of the world.
Holding up the poster that it looks like a sixth grader made. Again, I don't see how this is going to storm manufacturing back to America.
No, not at all. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I mean, you've got to have investment in this country to be able to do that. And the problem is that once you cut the spigot off on the federal government, and what have they done? They have literally slashed and burned at Musk. What does Musk's charter try and bring trillions of dollars of savings down? Savings. Why? The country that creates its own money. Why is he trying to save it? It's fucking the dumbest fucking thing. God, it's fucking stupid.
I want to read this tweet next and get your thoughts. See if it's historically accurate. Colin, I just sent it to you to be the next one. But this is Franklin Leonard, the Blacklist founder. He tweeted out, "Tariffs disproportionately affect lower income Americans, which is in part why a progressive federal income tax system was established. Yep. This is going to affect lower income Americans because wealthier Americans will just pay what they have to pay because they have the money. But the people living paycheck to paycheck, which is not just lower class, it's what's left of the middle class. Let's just call it the working class now. This is going to affect because there's people without much margin. There's people right now that could just meet their bills, or they can't really cover their bills and have to go into debt to cover their bills. You also have the higher interest rates for people that have recently purchased homes, if they could have purchased a home. You also have people paying exorbitant rent prices, not just in major urban cities, but even in rural America, rent has gone up. Utility bills have gone up. Grocery bills, which Trump said going down on day one, they're still up. So there's a lot of people right now that live paycheck to paycheck that are going to have prices across the board go up. And what happens then? You have rationing. You have people not purchasing things they need, saying, it's no longer essential. I'm not gonna purchase X, Y, and Z, or going without things they need. I mean, across the board, and it's going to affect, yes, MAGA. And sorry, MAGA, are you that patriotic? Are you that much of a cultist that you're going to be cool? $7 avocados? I don't fucking think so. Thoughts?
Well, first things first. You remember I told you that the only way you're getting money in the economy is either the federal government is spending it, we're a net exporter suddenly, or we have private debt, right? So right now, Trump removed the cap on credit card interest, okay? So now all of a sudden, we're going to have to get private debt. And what are people going to do? They're going to start putting their electric bill on their credit card. They're going to start buying the groceries on their credit card at 26% interest, 32% interest, 36% interest, whatever the gouge they have, they're going to do because you have to do what you have to do to survive. And what happens when you run out of private credit and your little teeny bit of income is gone? People start going bankrupt. Now, all of a sudden, the bankruptcies are going to go. And what's worse is those shit stains are going to sit there and point at you should have made better decisions. That's the kind of bullshit that's going to run rampant through this country. These shit stains are going to sit there and tell people you should have made better. You should have pinched your pennies. You should have saved like I did. All this bullshit. And I'm telling you right now, you want to talk about something that's worthy of getting your, punched. This is right now that kind of shitty attitude is what I'm expecting from these turds.
And I will say, Steve, in the final moments we have with you, Trump is a master of change the subject. So if prices go up and there's a lot of pissed off people, not only stock market tanking, but consumer sentiment going down, his polls going down, more of these Republican town halls where they're screaming, I mean, including Republican town halls, they're screaming tax the rich at some of these. Trump, you think it's bad now with him, trying to deport Mahmoud Khalil, all but abducting a Turkish woman in Massachusetts. Her name escapes me, but just a woman who was legally here. They abducted her, basically, sent her to Louisiana in, I think, a similar situation to Mahmoud Khalil for the crime of writing an op-ed at her college against the Gaza genocide. They've been doing this to other foreigners who have visas to be here. They've wrongly rounded up American citizens and detained them. I just read a horrifying story that a woman got assaulted, domestic battery, went to get treatment. As they were treating her, undocumented, deported. So if you think it's bad what Trump is doing now, wait till the fucking tiki torch, wrong term. wait till the masses storm the gates, figuratively, against these price hikes, against this soaring inflation. You're not going to hear anything from Fox News, by the way, about inflation. You heard it under Biden. Under Trump, you're a patriot if you absorb higher prices, because it's all theater. It's all political tribalism, politics as a sport. You got propaganda channels on the right. You got channels on the left, MSNBC, that just hid from you that Biden was basically senile. Okay? So it's going to get bad.
Go on the street. Once people are in the street, don't worry. He'll send the SS and the SA out there in their brown shirts to knock down protests. Guaranteed. Guaranteed you're going to see that kind of behavior. 100%. You see cop cities, shit's been going on, being prepared under bipartisan arrangements. It's going to happen. Guaranteed.
And Steve, before you go, tell people as best as you could predict to be clear, with Trump, it's always TBD. I mean, he could wake up tomorrow and scale a lot of this back. But if this stays in place, what could people affect in the short term in terms of price hikes, layoffs, and a possible recession?
Well, you're going to see price hikes for sure, because businesses are not going to eat that cost. They're not going to eat that cost. It will be passed on. You can guarantee that, because businesses also, even if it doesn't get passed on, they will raise prices because they can. This is another signal. This is the same shit that happened during the pandemic. Oh, they printed money. They spent money on the people. Let's jack up price. You remember the 1,000% profit margins that you were seeing in some of these crisis profiteering? That's going to happen again. Another signal to industry. Let's raise prices. So it's possible that you'll see corporations double up on this, and they'll say, well, we just got to pass this cost on to you. What are you going to do? You got no alternative. You're going to pay it or you won't have it. And so I think that will happen. But I think more importantly, what will happen is the other end of this, the reduction of spending, that right there is going to start drying up state and local governments. People are going to start really getting hurt, and the layoffs will continue, not just from the tariff hikes, but from the reducing federal government spending, cutting interest. You're going to see a major downturn if this goes through. And I think you're going to see a major downturn whether this goes through or not, because of that reduction in spending that these morons celebrate.
Right. Absolutely. Steve-O, tell people where they can find your great work.
Absolutely. Come check us out Saturday mornings. We release, you can listen to it anytime. It's a listen, it's not a watch. The podcast Macro and Cheese talks about all the stuff we're talking about here. Every week we get great experts, have deep dives into the stuff. So please check it out. Tuesday nights, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we have something that goes with this called Macro and Chill. Please come join us. We had a large crowd last night listening to us discuss Randy Ray and the concept of modern monetary theory. It was a great conversation. A lot of people, new people. It was wonderful. Thank you all for coming. And hopefully very soon you will start to see me go back live Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's coming up very soon.
And why you need to subscribe, not later, right the fuck now. You hear me? right now. It was Steve's
Nope.
birthday yesterday.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was Steve's
How
birthday.
old do I look? How old do I look? 100, right? No, it's 56.
I guess
I'm an old
40,
man.
but I guess a little older. So Steve's birthday. So give him a subscribe. Real progress in action. Real progressives. God bless him. We'll have you back next week. Thanks, man. All right. Don't go anywhere. Big announcement. Big announcement. We got 1,100 people watching. So smash that like button. That is your patriotic duty, folks. Smash that like button. Share this live stream. All right. Status Coup has been around since 2018. And we have been the little engine that could. It has been myself as the CEO, the main reporter, Colin Tooley behind the scenes, editing, producing, graphics. We both work way too much, 6-7 days a week. Poor Colin, as we've grown, has been working 7 days a week because we've been doing a lot of weekend videos too. But we have grown about 230,000 subscribers in the last 7 months, which has been great. And that growth has finally helped us because we don't take any money from the corporations, United Healthcare, Goldman Sachs, Lockheed Martin, the corrupt fucks purchasing the Democratic and Republican Party. Our funding has come from you, the proletariat. But through our growth, we've been able to finally expand. So I recently, over the last 3 weeks or so, you might have seen I was not live and doing as much because I was doing interviews. I interviewed 14 people, actually. So it was, obviously Status Coup, we are very unique. So therefore, we need a very unique person to deliver both the on-the-ground investigative as well as what I say is justice journalism you all expect. So I'm excited that we're finally able to hire our first full-time reporter other than me. We've mainly used freelancers for the last few years here and there, but the person who will be joining in a minute will be full-time. So you will be seeing her on camera for live streams, shorter videos, written pieces on Substack, covering protests, covering events, and then ultimately her own on-the-ground reporting trips. You have helped make this happen through funding us, Status Coup members. Without further ado, let me introduce you to our new reporter, Ashley Bishop, joining us.
Hey.
Ashley was freelancing for various outlets, worker-oriented outlets, including The Real News, including The Nation, Jacobin. You have also done stuff at The Chief Leader, Atmos. And what also kind of piqued my interest originally is you spent many years working on a documentary in Ecuador. So you have on-the-ground experience, not just in the United Corporations of America, but outside the states. So we'll talk about that. But first, tell me, Ashley, tell the masses who you are. Tell us a little bit about you, how you got into journalism. You are from the working class, and kind of what made you interested in Status Coup.
Yeah, hi. I'm so happy to be here. Happy to be joining the team. I've been doing freelance reporting before this. I guess if I'm going to go back to with my background, how I got started, I think I would say that my kind of interest in left politics was actually through the punk scene in the early 2000s. So bands like the Dead Kennedys and some more cheesy bands like Anti-Flag, they were my first kind of like real exposure to any kind of anything really approaching left politics. And I can kind of remember, hearing lyrics from those bands and going, oh, I get it now. Everything kind of makes sense to me. And I guess, everything just made sense after that. And then, like you said, as I got older, I had sort of I hate to say, kind of like typical millennial experience. So, during the 2008 recession, my family almost lost their home. So I can remember very clearly getting like pink slips on the door, having the phone just kind of ringing off the hook and not being able to actually answer it because we were, streaming for bill collectors, essentially. So I remember that very vividly. And then as I got older, we have the student debt crisis. So I, like most people our age, have like thousands of dollars in student debt, all that kind of thing. And then, I've dealt with health issues that I've found difficult to deal with through the kind of predatory healthcare system that's kind of profiting off of the working class. So yeah, I feel like I've kind of every crisis that we've had, I've kind of been hit pretty hard by that, and it really kind of reinforced my commitment to covering these things that affect the working class. So yeah, that's kind of my background. And then as far as journalism goes, as you mentioned, my entryway kind of came through a documentary that I filmed what feels like 1,000 years ago now. I went to Ecuador thinking that I was going to be filming this like feel-good story about a school being built in an indigenous community. Instead, I got there, and on the ground, the entirety of the project just completely fell apart. So project falls apart. It actually became kind of dangerous. The team that I was with, we had like death threats lobbied against us, all that kind of thing. So I really had to find my way through that and continue the like on the ground investigative reporting. And that really propelled my interest in covering, things in that way. And instead of getting
were the death threats from locals? Were the death threats from people that you might have been reporting on or spotlighting?
Yeah, so they were from locals who we would have been reporting on. So we kind of came to find out that the nonprofit that we went down there with hadn't really set things up on the ground to be successful in any way. And there is a sort of, I guess I would say, local political structure there that is essentially very corrupt. And she had not contacted the right people and, kind of paid her dues, given money to those groups that were kind of in control of the whole political apparatus in that area. So when we got there, it upset a lot of people. So yeah, it was basically death threats from like local interested parties.
Which I think is important because whether it's Ecuador, Flint, in my experience, 9 times out of 10, when you first go somewhere, you kind of think from what you've read, the story is X, and then you get there and you realize, holy shit, this is not X. This is like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And there's a whole lot more corruption than I even knew. And I don't even know where to start. So I think that experience in Ecuador probably gives you insight if you go into communities, the types of stories we cover, that you're kind of, you might have some preconceived assumptions on what the story is, but you're kind of nimble and flexible to kind of adjust where to dig based on what you learn.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely the thing that, as far as reporting goes, that is what I took away from that most. That you need to be flexible and you need to be able to follow a story wherever it goes, whether where it goes ends up being I could get killed doing this, or where it goes is something safer, and I will say less interesting. So for us, it was we went to go film a feel-good story. Instead, we got a more complicated, more nuanced story about essentially how neoliberalism functions with the NGO model in the global South, and the way that they, continue to extract wealth from communities under the guise of helping. So under the guise of building a school or building bathrooms or those kinds of things. So like you said, it also kind of set me up to be able to see those patterns here at home too, where we're told that, these things don't exist. But of course, we all know, and anyone who's watching this knows that they do.
So like what Hillary Clinton did in Haiti. Anyway, speaking of neoliberalism, just showing the behind the scenes for the audience, for the candidates that I was interested in, I asked them to do kind of like audition tapes because most reporters don't have a lot of on-camera experience. So Ashley did 2, actually. And one of the things I liked in your tape is you called Chuck Schumer and the Democrats a bunch of pussies, which tickled my fancy. Those were her words, not mine, but I agree. So I kind of want to, where is your mind politically? Because obviously we are not, and I made it clear in speaking with reporter candidates, I don't want a robot a robot neutral reporter. I want your opinion. I want your personality. It takes a while. Believe it or not, folks, when I started out, I was a little more stiff than I am now. So it takes a while to kind of truly get comfortable on camera. Most journalists, not from Status Coup, are taught the opposite. They're taught you should do not state your opinion, do not show any passion. We don't want to know what you think. So it takes a while to kind of get comfortable letting the true you out. But tell people kind of your mentality of the current political system. People know what I think. There's no blue or red. The only color that matters is green. But what are your views on the current climate in front of, I think, at this point, capital F fascism with Trump, and I think a Democratic Party that is basically the Republicans from the 1990s that enabled this fascism? How do you view the current political moment?
Yeah, I would say that I probably feel very much the same as you do, which is what attracted me to Status Coup to begin with. I would say politically, I'm very much a leftist. And at this point, I would say the Republicans are beyond reproach. I don't really, there's no hope there, right? They are self-serving, corrupt assholes, the entire lot of them. I would say as far as Democrats go, they are cowards. They're cowards and also self-serving. And, as Status Coup
don't forget the assholes.
Yeah. Also assholes. Yeah, no, for sure. All of them. I just think at this point we have exhausted any hope for starting a movement that has to do with the Democratic Party. That's my opinion. And I think that working people need to find a way to stand up for themselves, whether that is through the labor movement or other social movements, other movements for justice that are popping up. That is the path forward because, we saw through the last election cycle, the Democrats have failed to offer anything material for working people, just nothing. They don't care. And again, they're just extraordinarily self-serving, and they serve their donors. They serve their donor base, and that's not us. So we don't matter to them. So again, I personally feel like it's time to move forward a different way.
When you look at the kind of independent media landscape, and obviously I'm not asking you to shit on anyone because it's your first day, but we have a lot of, shall we say, independent, but a lot of channels that kind of chitty chat and do hot takes and kind of news of the day. They're all talking about the same thing. Not a lot of outlets that actually do investigative reporting, go on the ground. It's not to say you have to do that to be a journalist, but obviously what we do is kind of unique because on a pretty modest budget, we go to Flint and East Palestine and Cop City and, do reporting trips on the economy. We did a trip at the beginning of the pandemic called The Other Pandemic, where we interviewed people in multiple states facing eviction, really struggling during COVID. We did another one during the worst of inflation, interviewing people can't afford for gas, things like that. With Status Coup, what do you see as the opportunity here and like your passion areas that you bring to the table? Because I know you're very passionate about labor, climate, et cetera.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm most passionate about right now and what I've been working a lot on and what a lot of my reporting has focused on has been the climate labor movement, the just transition, those kind of things. So where those two movements converge, I'm really interested in, especially the history of those movements. And I know that there are still a lot of people around who have been around since the very beginning. And, considering we are living in a moment where the Trump administration is dismantling all of the work from, that started in the 60s and 70s, we still have people around who worked on getting policies in place and working on agencies like the EPA. So I'm interested in looking at those things, looking at those historical links there. I guess I would also say I'm just interested in working class and left politics. I'm interested in looking at all of the things that touch working people's lives. So we're living in a very unique moment where everything is basically under attack by an administration that doesn't care at all about any of us. So I would like to shed light on the many ways in which we're all being screwed over right now.
Yeah. And I think also an important thing we try to do is obviously we have to cover what Trump's doing. We try to do it in a unique way. So if we're covering Trump, we're not the 100th person to do the same exact topic on try to bring an interesting angle. But I also think it's important that the answer to this fascism can't be back to normal 2.0, which was basically how Biden got elected in the first place. We can't just say like, oh, rah, rah, Cory Booker did a 25-hour filibuster and a riveting speech, and forget Cory Booker's bought off. Sorry, folks. He did that as a, first shot in the cannon for his inevitable 2028 run. Maybe he really genuinely meant it, but you can't you can't have blinders on because you want to get rid of Trump that we just forget the Democratic Party's response to losing to an orange orangutan 2 out of 3 times has been to move to the right. Let me repeat. The Democratic Party's answer, losing to a used car salesman, and I mean it, almost 3 times, because remember, 2020, Biden only won by a little bit. It could have went the other way. Was not, hey, maybe we should listen to this Bernie guy. Hey, maybe we should look at the polls, Medicare for all. It's been to move to the right. So to me, yes, we're covering Trump, but we have to critically cover the Democrats too, because I don't want people to have false illusions that the answer here doesn't, like they did in 2020, just get rid of Trump. I don't care who the fuck it is. Buttigieg, come on down. Gavin Newsom, come on down. No, because if you bring those kind of corporatists back in, we're just going to repeat the cycle. They're going to come in. They're going to provide crumbs because that's all their donors will allow. The masses are going to get fed up, and the masses will just go to the less bombastic fascist, whoever it is, Vance, Tom Cotton, I don't know. Your thoughts on that kind of cycle?
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with all of that. I totally agree with all of that. And I think that we're kind of, if we fall for the false promise that the Democrats are, laying out now, will continue to lay out, and this idea that they have something to offer any of us, which they don't, we will just find ourselves, as you're alluding to, in a cycle of, we're going to vote the Democrats in, they're going to be, Biden 2.0, and then the next election cycle, we're going to end up with Trump 2.0, and just continue on and on like that. And it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable, and it's not, a way to build a country where working people can actually thrive in any way. Yep. So I would agree with all of that.
And by the way, just so you know, even though I'm technically your boss, you're free to disagree with me when you want. It will make good internet. Another thing, I think a reason that I was interested in hiring you is I have felt for a while, in media, political media specifically, it's a lot of covering elections. And I started out in 2016 with the Young Turks on the Bernie wave, which was incredible. It was a great experience. But after 2016, 2020, 2024, midterms, you start to realize, not to say electoral politics doesn't matter, it does, but maybe we need to start covering a lot more outside of electoral politics. So that's why in recent years, we jumped in here. When I say we, I mean me. Jumped in to the Amazon Labor Union organizing in Staten Island. I was out there for a year before they won. The John Deere strikes we covered in 2021. Colin and I went to Iowa and Illinois. The Starbucks workers' historic union drive in Buffalo, we were out there before they won. Nurses on strike, we've covered a bunch of them. So I think it's important, even though right now the focus is on politics and elections and stuff like that, to cover a lot of those things that are not being covered by most mainstream media and most independent media. Talk about kind of your focus on labor and your interest in labor, because I think that's where your background and interests kind of align with Status Coup.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the focus on electoralism kind of robs us all of energy that should be going toward these other movements. So when you're only talking about electoralism, that means that you're not doing anything in between each election cycle. So maybe, you're trying to get steering people essentially to vote in the midterms, or, once every 4 years, there is a mass effort for everyone to be voting. If electoralism is all you care about, that's all you're doing. And my focus on labor stems from my belief that that is the only place where we have any power. The labor movement is the only place where, people can really affect some kind of real change and actually, take back power from corporations and corporate entities and all that, so that we can start to build a life that will be better for all of us.
Absolutely. So, folks, I am very excited. It is a very liberating feeling for me to start forwarding emails to another reporter and say, you follow up. Because trust me, I've been juggling a lot. But Ashley is going to be covering news stories that we haven't covered before. She's going to be following up on previous stories like East Palestine. They're still sick 2 years later. It's still a cover-up. The Northern California lithium battery fire. We're going to stay on that. I sent her a long document today with a lot of stories we've done. Obviously, following up, we mentioned the John Deere strikes that I covered in 2021. Well, shocker, they're laying off a lot of John Deere workers. So following up on that, we talked earlier today about possibly having Ashley and John go out on a reporting trip focused not only on the government workers that are being laid off, but all the services that are being laid off. Where's she from, Jordan? She's in New York. All the government services. Where are you from originally, I should ask?
I'm from New York.
Okay, New York.
Yeah.
Which also, it wasn't like a determining factor that she be in New York. I was willing to hire someone outside of New York. But the fact that the best person was in New York is great, because now she could go out with John, our cameraman, on the ground. So they'll be on the ground. This Saturday is a big, another one of these protest days against Trump and Musk. I think there's going to be massive protests in D.C., massive protests in New York, around the country. So Ashley and John will be on the ground covering a protest in New York. But basically, you're another voice to go on the ground, cover things for the first time, but stay on things. Because if you're new to Status Coup, we try our best with the little resources we have, not just to parachute into a place, cover it, and then never look back. I mean, that's what the mainstream media does. They went to Flint for a week, they covered the water lines, and then they stopped covering it and only dropped in for anniversaries. I always say I'm only one person. We're now only two people, so we can't cover everything. But to the best of our ability as humans, while also having time to go pee and go to the bathroom, we're going to try to cover as much as possible. So activists, community members who message me, you can now message Ashley at reasonable times, not early morning, weekends. People were calling me on Valentine's Day. It's like, go away. But I think this is going to be great. And, there's a learning curve also, because we do something unique. I have like two jobs in one, because you have the reporting component, which is a full-time job, but then you have the hosting and on camera. So it took me a while to get completely comfortable on camera, to the point where I could just be like, fuck it. I'm just going to let loose. It'll take you a little time. So everybody, be patient. As the golden rule, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And if you have something nasty to say, fuck off. That's what I say. But I'm really excited, Ashley. I think you align really well with us, and I think we're going to do great things. So you'll probably be doing your first video tomorrow. Like I said, her and John will be hitting the ground this weekend. So John Farina now could actually shoot and not have to worry about doing 25 things at once, because we'll have a reporter there. And we'll be talking about, like I said, honestly, right now, we are seeing the headlines on all the government workers being laid off, all the services being cut. But what about in local communities? Let's go talk to that food pantry that their funds are being cut now because of these cuts. Let's talk to people on the ground to see what that looks like, see how bad this is going to hurt. Let's go talk to that, special education office that has had funding cut. And let's talk to people there. Let's talk to the victims, the parents who no longer are getting the services for their kids. So that's what we're looking to do in the short term, to go on the ground and really show you, put a face to what these cuts are. So, yeah, I'm really excited, Ashley. I hope. And I will say to the audience, we got, how many? We got 700 something people watching. Listen, straight up, money don't grow on trees. We've been able to hire Ashley through our growth. Through right now, we have about 2,500 paying members, but we want to keep her, obviously. We want her to be well paid and fed, and we want to expand. So the next step, we want to be able to hire a producer, because God loved Colin, but he can't edit everything, and he can't produce everything, and he can't do all the graphics. So we want to hire a producer. That requires more funding. I would like to hire another reporter on top of Ashley. So the goal is to expand. I'm also talking to Ron Placone, who you guys know and love, about having him do a weekly comedy show, because that's kind of the next step. We have the misery, corruption, and exploitation down pat, but we kind of want to expand because I think people need a little relief too. So we want to expand Status Coup, not to make it a fluffy channel, but, you know, have a little variety. Maybe a comedy show with Ron once a week. Maybe have a sports show that kind of mixes sports and politics, sports and culture. But we need funding because we got to pay people. Obviously, you've seen Zaina has been guest hosting now and doing some more reporting for us. We got to pay her when she does it. So we're trying to expand. So if you're watching, I'm not asking for, you know, $1 million from you. I'm asking for, bottom line, $5 a month. That's 16 cents a day. $5 a month equals 16 cents a day. You could support us at $10 a month. There's also $20 a month. You could support us annually at $179 annually. But at the end of the day, if we could stack up like brick by brick, $5 a month, if we could get 5,000, 10,000 paying members at $5-10 a month, we're good. And we could expand and hire more people. So there's a lot of channels asking you for money, but they're sitting on their butts, bloviating out of their behinds. A lot of them I like, but their overhead is much lower. We got to pay people. I just got a bill. Colin, what was the bill? Live View? We got a $3,000 bill today for nothing? You're
for
muted.
Maintenance and service or something like that, just to allow the unit to keep working.
So that would be the live on the road. So in addition to paying out of the ass for data, addition to paying out of the ass for their server, hope they're not watching, we got to now pay a $3,000 maintenance fee, which is basically just giving them $3,000 for nothing. So there's a lot of costs that go with on-the-ground independent reporting. So please, please, please support us. StatusCoup.com/join. If you're already a member, StatusCoup.com/donate. I love you. I love everybody. If you could donate more, great. If you only could donate $5-10, great. It all makes a big difference. I'm excited, Ashley. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will let you go before I read the super chats, and be ready. You're going to start seeing her as early as tomorrow. So thanks, Ashley.
Awesome. Thanks.
Bye-bye. So that was our new reporter, Ashley Bishop. Go give her a follow on Twitter at Ashley Bishop. We will put the link in the description if you're on the Twitter. She'll be joining Blue Sky and all the other ones too, so you could follow her there. But I'm very, very excited. I think she's exactly the right fit for who we are and what we want to do. And I think it's going to help us. It's going to not only help us cover more, but it's going to allow me to do more digging in terms of the investigative reporting, because I haven't had as much time as I would like to do investigative reporting because I've been doing all the content. So exciting, exciting. Let's read the super chats here. Hold on. Super chat. VA from New York. Jordan, your new reporter won't be talking about wasting our tax dollars, will she? Well, I don't know how up she is on modern monetary theory, but I will definitely have her on with Steve Grumbine so he could explain the birds and the bees of modern monetary theory. I can't dictate to her whether to subscribe to it, but we will certainly show her the way of modern monetary theory. And if she agrees, I will make sure she advocates for it if she agrees. Mad Vigo, $5. The jobs can come back. They just have to drive down wages, so we are willing to take the jobs. Bingo, bingo, bingo. You got it. That's actually what Richard Wolff, the economist, said to me in our interview yesterday. Go check out that interview. It's up on the channel. He said Trump's just basically trying to create a peasant economy where you drive down wages and people need to take the shit jobs. And that's kind of what they've done in other countries. Brenda, $2. Tariff equals import tax call. Call it what it actually is. Yes, I totally agree with that. VA from New York, $10. Want to know why egg prices here are so high? Listen to Macro and Cheese this Saturday. Ooh, that's a good tease. Definitely listen to Steve's podcast, Macro and Cheese. Nadia, €5. Haloschen aus dar, free zon von Berlin. Okay, I don't know what that means, but it sounds good. I was dead right to make sure I was out before Inauguration Day. I'll never set foot in the USA again. Interesting. So you are an expat now, part of the Trump exodus. You know, I read, Colin, did you ever watch the show Suits?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, I read that the star from Suits actually left America because of Trump. Interestingly enough.
So did Ellen DeGeneres.
Ellen DeGeneres. Super sticker, Mary, $20. Pair character sliding on the floor on his knees saying goal. Thank you. Glenn Palit, $49.99. Thank you, Glenn. That is very generous of you. Gina became a Status Coup YouTube member. Thank you, Gina. Couldn't say I appreciate it more. Ara, $4.99. Good luck, Ashley, and glad you guys hate both parties. We'd make a lot more money if we picked a side. Trust me. If I was a resistance channel, if we were a resistance channel and we just stand for Democrats, we'd make a ton of money because there's a big audience for that. And if we were MAGA cultists, we'd make a ton of money. There's less money here on the truth boat, which tells you they're all fucking corrupt. Every last one of them. Perry, $5. I agree, but the labor bosses are tied to the Democrats and will stifle rank and file. Yes, that's true. Traditionally, labor bosses have been tied to Democrats, but I do see the tide beginning to shift. Not quick enough for my liking, but I do see the labor rank and file be less tied to Democrats and be more resistant to the labor bosses who are tied at the hip to Democrats. Gate 9, Super Chat, $4.99. Congrats. Thank you. Nadia, €5. Democrats are all rigged shams via COINTELPRO. Oh boy, there's quite a lot coming on the COINTELPRO and JFK's assassination. Lenin ran for office, but he still got in on the revolution in time and did July 17th, 1918. Thank you. Teresa became a Status Coup YouTube member. Thank you, Teresa. Really appreciate it. Cishet Billionaire, $20 Super Chat. Oh, we're doing Super Chats today? Cool. Just thanks for being here. Thank you for being here. Bev became a Status Coup YouTube member. Fight the power, baby. Thank you, Bev. I greatly appreciate it. And shout outs to new Status Coup members on our website, Teresa and Jessica. Not to rain on the folks parade that signed up for YouTube membership, but we do kindly ask, if you haven't signed up yet, our preference is signing up through the website because YouTube takes quite a cut of your revenue, of your membership money. So if you could sign up at our website, statuscoup.com/join. If you don't mind, you could cancel on YouTube, sign up on our website. If you'd rather just stay on YouTube, that's fine too. $25 donation from Paul. Like I said, if you're already a member, you could donate to help fund our reporting, help fund Ashley, all our reporters now. $25 from Paul. Giving what I can from here in central Massachusetts. Saturday, I'll be attending my first protest ever here. I've been involved politically, but never in person. Always behind the scenes. I'm nervous, but super excited. Thank you. I'm glad to have your donation, and I'm glad you'll be getting out there to a protest. We need all bodies, and I hope the protests, as we've been talking about, evolve and people start adding to their boots on the ground, start organizing economic protests against Amazon, economic protests against Walmart, economic protests against corporate banking, with that, a mutual aid pot so that we could help the workers during those protests and strikes. And finally, I'll just say, I'm very excited about the short-term future, the long-term future here. We were able to give Colin a bump because of our growth. So Colin is now totally full time. Colin, not to get too in the weeds, but boosted him a little bit in terms of wages. So as we've grown, we're trying to give it back to the people that are helping us grow, like Colin hiring a new reporter, and next step trying to hire a new producer. When we post a job for a new producer, I will let you guys know, so that if you have some production experience in the audience, you could certainly apply. We also just added somebody part-time for administrative help, because God fucking knows I've been doing, more Colin than I, have been doing way too much administrative stuff, and it's making us both go crazy. So also, if you didn't see this morning, because for whatever reason it got a lower audience, so I don't know if everyone saw it, we posted. So on Friday, John went to Newark, New Jersey to cover a rally in support of Mahmoud Khalil, the Palestinian political prisoner, I would call him, who was detained and is now rotting in a Louisiana prison as the Trump administration tries to deport him for the crime of organizing and leading the Palestinian student protest at Columbia University. He was the organizer for that. So we covered a rally outside the courtroom in Newark, New Jersey on Friday, because his lawyers were in court arguing to get him freed. For whatever reason, it was very choppy, the live stream. Other people who were trying to stream were also having problems. So there might have been like some type of signal jammer there that affected our live stream. So John recorded a lot of stuff after we ended a live stream. So we posted some of that this morning. So definitely go check out that video. There's a lot of passionate, powerful speeches. We did interviews with supporters. People came from New York City to New Jersey to show support to him, Mahmoud. And like I said, we'll be on the ground. What's today? Wednesday? We might be on the ground before Saturday if protests happen, but we'll definitely be on the ground Saturday. Ashley will be there with John. Thank you. Check out that video I told you about earlier, the Mahmoud rally. Check out my interview with Richard Wolff from yesterday. I also did a video yesterday, if you missed it. Luigi Mangione the federal government is now officially going after him for the death penalty, which I think has very dangerous ramifications for the rest of us. And it's quite the double standard when you consider all the bankers have gotten off after tanking the global economy. The Sackler family has gotten off for poisoning and killing people with OxyContin. All the double standards of people who got off, but they're throwing the book at this guy for allegedly murdering a healthcare executive. So go check out that video. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good night.